Well, hey everybody, we are back live in studio at the Messenger Studios, and today I've got my superstar guest, Mr. Jim Bradford. Wave at everybody out there, say hello.
All right, thank you for having me.
I'm super glad to have you here. So this is going to be like a new series. It's once on the third Thursday of every month. Jim has offered to donate his time to help. How would you say it? I'd say to share with our community, because you're a citizen of Meade County, isn't that correct?
That's right. Yeah, no, I think a perfect goal is to inform, provide a little bit of context, and then answer any questions that may be out there and stuff. Because there's clearly lots of questions that people may have because they live and work on Fort Knox, or they're just interested.
Yeah, no, a large portion of actually Meade County. I've had this conversation. In fact, I was at the Meade County Chamber Luncheon today, which was hosted by Meade County High School at the Career Center, and a lot of folks in attendance today. As the school talked about their partnerships with the community, one of the biggest highlights they talked about was their relationship with the military, which I think is phenomenal that they talk about that, because we have a lot of our military families that their students or their kids go to Meade County schools or public schools.
Sure. Yeah. No. I mean, we just got through, with the October month of the military child. We're give or take about a third or quarter way through the school year, and so there are many things that we do at the federal or at the state level to really recognize our military children that are in our local public schools, whether that be Meade County, Hardin County, Bullitt County, et cetera.
So keep talking. I'm going to turn this around.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the many things that a lot of people don't necessarily recognize when they think about the partnership between Fort Knox and a surrounding community. Most of the time it is focused on, hey, I have a job on Fort Knox, or hey, I live in West Point or Vine Grove or or Brandenburg. My farm butts up against. But the reality is with about 26,000 people that live or work on Fort Knox, they are all really kind of exporters on whether that be on a daily basis or definitely on the weekend, that are utilizing the services in the communities that surround Fort Knox. And in many ways, on the recreational or the event size, people on those counties and cities are coming on to Fort Knox to participate in that as well. You were mentioning, here shortly before we got on, about hunting season, and we're in the middle of it. Whether you are hunting at Otter Creek State Park, maybe you're leasing personal land, or you are a permit hunter on Fort Knox. Last weekend was one of our 3 gun weekends. We've got another big one coming up here, and then obviously the weekend after Thanksgiving will be a huge recreational opportunities, not for just people that live around here. We get a lot of folks from southern Indiana, eastern Kentucky, et cetera, that come on to Fort Knox.
Yeah, we had a podcast on a couple weeks ago talking about CWD, which is we covered in great detail. Interesting too is the swim season just started, and the Meade County swim team practices at the swimming pool.
That's correct.
Olympic-sized swimming pool, fantastic facility, and obviously everybody would love us to have something more local, but people don't realize that that's also a shared partnership between our public schools and the Fort Knox facility.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's my kid was a swimmer and on a kind of a private team or public team. We swam in an aquatic center that was owned by the Air Force Base. So it's not uncommon here to Fort Knox, but it does show a lot of the partnership and commonality and stuff that takes place between the installation and communities.
So, I mean, you've known me a long time, probably when I was in uniform and then out. When I took the uniform off, I don't think it was necessarily in my cards to be doing what I'm doing now, but I absolutely love what I'm doing. I think one of the biggest things I noticed is Fort Knox, they lost a newspaper. It's expensive to run a newspaper.
Sure.
Through months of discussions and negotiations, and now here we are, right? So I own a newspaper. I think I took a lot of criticism because I took the Meade County Messenger off, just so I could go across the border because
Sure.
Fort Knox is a vital neighbor to Meade County. Oftentimes, I think that Meade County doesn't get necessarily the same amount of attention. That's not a bag on Fort Knox. They either want to go to Elizabethtown or they want to go to Louisville for many reasons. One, the airport's in Louisville, a lot of TDY travel that goes out of the military installation. But honestly, I loved living in Meade County because I'm closer to the airport than having to come all the way from E-Town and stuff. But with E-Town's growth, so too has Meade County had growth. And there's a lot of living opportunities in Meade County that kind of resonate with those who come to Fort Knox, especially whether they want to be military lifestyle or they want to be the civilian workforce lifestyle.
Sure.
And you guys got a lot of growth going on right now.
Well, sure. No, I think, a transitioning soldier, a transitioning family, whether that be 5 years or 25 years, they are making the same decisions on where they want to live at and transition out of that anyone else is. Hey, this is the type of home that I want to raise my family in, and I want to, I want to live in what I can afford, plus where I want to be able to live at. Types of school, how good are the school systems, law enforcement, crime, things of that nature, and I think that's in one ways one of the great things about Meade County and Brandenburg and the small municipalities as well that make up Meade County. It gives you a lot of opportunity for a family to make whatever decision that they need to make. And in regards to the growth, yes. We're growing about, give or take, a little over 200 folks as part of Recruiting Command Expands. It's been well known, not just in the Army, but across the services. We've been very challenged here, really kind of through COVID and post-COVID, to get the recruiting numbers that we need for our nation. One of the things that the Army is doing is saying, okay, we're going to increase some capacity that allows us to go after our youth,
target audience,
those audience that we want to do at.
Yeah.
The interesting piece is the majority of that growth actually will be our civilian professionals. So that's going to be kind of senior civilians in that grade that will be bringing their expertise in. But that is also
it is kind of exciting because I left that command.
Well, that's right.
To take this on, so I'm excited about what they're doing. There's a lot of attention too this year on recruitment. It was heavily talked about in not to go down the political road, but it was part of the campaign season.
Oh,
this
absolutely.
Year. So and it's funny because we talk Army all the time in our lives until we get to this point, but we focus on PMISI PT, political, economic, social, all of those factors that make up the acronym PMISI PT, and it matters. I think we get a lot of support locally for Fort Knox. Brett Guthrie's office, both senators do a heavy support for us. I think there was some discussion recently. I know we need a new hangar because of the facilities required to maintain our land air combat operations.
Yeah, we have very old facilities, and of course the Army, but the Department of Defense is modernizing.
Yeah.
And so just like any business, we've got to modernize our facilities against the equipment that we are we're trying to maintain, and we are extremely fortunate. From our state representatives and our state senators that are huge proponents of not just Fort Knox, but Fort Knox and Fort Campbell, Bluegrass Army Depot, and our National Guard training centers here in the state as well, and that's a win for us.
Yeah,
for sure.
I want to give a shout out to Knox Regional Development Alliance. They have done they are such an advocate for the military soldier. They are the voice that you can't be in a lot of cases, or the civilian population that works there. You know, you
Sure.
get a lot of lawyers involved and everything, and for good measure, because you try to maintain the ethics of good stewardship of the taxpayer money and everything. And those lawyers are there for a reason. But it's nice that we have a public-private partnership that's willing to go out and help educate the value of what Fort Knox brings to the community for
Sure.
locally and the state.
No, absolutely. You want advocacy. You need multiple partners in that advocacy effort. And KRDA, Regional Development Alliance, Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs. Those are great advocates, either at the state or federal or at the business level as well. Yeah, for sure.
So I see you at probably almost every event on Fort Knox. As part of an introduction, I think it's important that they understand, kind of there's a post commander, there's a post sergeant major, there's a garrison commander, there's a garrison sergeant major, and then there is a Jim Bradford. If I was to describe it, and maybe you've got a better description as you help explain it to people, but I kind of see you as like the city manager, and the garrison commander is like the mayor, and his sergeant major is like the lieutenant mayor or your counterpart in a city management position. But the post commander is like the governor, and the sergeant major is like the lieutenant governor. I think that's the best example.
Sure. No, I think that's I think that's a great analogy. You want continuity. That is one of the things that the city, the civilian professional brings on an installation. It's one of the things that I try to bring in, is that continuity as those military leaders kind of come in, make a difference, make decisions that they need to, and then move on. That continuity over a city, as you kind of laid out the analogy, is really kind of coming from myself and the team that makes up the garrison.
Yeah, and MCOM, I think, is the probably the biggest manager at the Department of the Army level, because they've got so many facilities across the globe. Strategically across the globe that they manage. So we're just like one small cog in the wheel, but we are an integral part of almost all of Army operations right here at Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So from a landowner perspective, that falls under MCOM, Installation Management Command. There's 70 plus of those in the United States. When you factor in things like munition depots and logistics depots, now we're out over 100 of those that go from the East Coast to the West Coast, up and down as well. So it's quite a undertaking on a year-to-year basis, and like any business, you got to make hard decisions with people. You got to make hard decisions on money, and that's that's the game we play.
Yeah, I used to laugh, when I lived in Sergeant Major Rotha, and I talked to my fellow peers, garrison sergeants major, and right down to how much grass we're gonna mow determines how much we spend in gas. I can save $100,000 a year in fuel by not cutting X portions of land, or we'll cut up to this certain point, but we're not going to cut all the way. Of course, you got to cut the airfield. But I just thought it was interesting calculus to shave dollars annually, and you'd be surprised at how much the enlisted corps plays a part in help with those decisions.
Oh, absolutely. Kind of going back to your to the paper. One of the things that I do every week is kind of read the paper, and I have a great an appreciation for city councils, mayors. Fiscal courts, judges having to make really hard decisions. Are we going to buy an ambulance? Are we going to buy a police car? How much money does Public Works need? Vice Animal Control. Those are really hard decisions, and we could have we could all have our input into it, but ultimately that's why we vote for those council persons or that those set of magistrates every year to make those decisions. And we make them on Fort Knox a little bit differently, but they're still hard decisions that get made through a process.
Yeah, and it's not an easy task to be it's not an easy task to be a soldier, just as it's not an easy task to be a civilian, especially one with your distinguishment, your position, because you are in a position of authority that has to make tough decisions, and you're also a big advisor because of the rotation of commanding officers who are given this command and or their sergeants major. I mean, you're like you are the continuity, but it's also important even, and I know you personally that this is not your role, but it's very easy to get, well, we've always done it this way.
That's right.
I have never ever in my experience ever run across a situation where we've always done it this way is even a word that comes out of your mouth, but people can get stagnant and comfortable, and that's what I think is great about that continuity that you provide. But there's so much going on at Fort Knox.
Yeah, sure. No, I think there's always constant change. Our soldiers, our soldiers today, and their family members, they're Generation Zers, they're millennials. They are a totally different than what I was a soldier, on. So their requirements, their expectations, what they like and dislike are a little bit different. So we have to be willing to re-attack things or do things that maybe weren't successful a few years ago, but are successful. We have to be willing to kind of partner and do things a little bit differently. And, so we were talking earlier about, what's going to happen or what's happening on, Fort Knox. So we're about ready to enter into the holiday period like everybody else. Like all cities, we're gonna light a Christmas tree on 5 December. About a week or so later, we're going to do the wreath laying ceremony, just like at Radcliffe at the Veterans Cemetery. And a huge shout out to the messenger to kind of help promote.
Speaking of, that. There's an ad in the paper this week. If you feel like you would like to make a donation to that, you can either go to Fort Knox website or you can click on the QR code by using your camera. Take a snapshot of it. It's on the image. We've got a link you can go to and you can make a donation. Whatever was donated, we will cut a check to Fort Knox. It's interesting because y'all have over 100 cemeteries on Fort Knox that families can no longer go to because that land is non-accessible like an ordinary cemetery in the acquisition of land for military installations.
Yeah, so, when you talk about the acquisition of land, you're going all the way back to the early 1900s.
Yes.
And as the Commonwealth came about and became a Commonwealth, and then ultimately Camp Knox became Fort Knox. As part of that absorption, we absorbed, a lot of family and community type of cemeteries. Many of those are in our range complex. Some of them are even so deep into our range complex they're actually in, where the rounds impact are commonly referred to as the impact area. So we have to open up a certain time during the year. We normally tie that to Memorial Day weekend, in which we do that. Now those cemeteries that are on the cantonment area, those areas that most people, kind of have a
better
access to. Those are open all the time. And so if I have that, but we do have some large, and I say large as in 25 or so headstones that are out in that range area, and we have to be very limited in when we do that. Now, our actually wreath ceremony is part of our Army official cemetery.
Absolutely.
We only have one of those. It's actually an enshrine, so it's a special designation. And that is where we do that that major event here in December.
And it's much harder to fund every year, so it's up to donations and support of community partners to help do that. It is not a requirement to do this by the government, but out of respect for those who have served and the conflicts that we've encountered, it's got a variety of plots in there from folks that were POWs that have died and were buried, laid to rest here. You know, when you're asked to go forward for one's country, you don't get a choice sometimes, and where you die is where you die, and they have procedures, and so we have foreign enemies who were laid to rest here respectfully, and so you know they served. So, but it's not just them; it's also our own soldiers and things from many years ago, but they laid a pathway for what we have today. And so out of respect, this is something that, you know, I know Fort Knox has done for decades.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, this is everywhere from, you know, Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C., all the way, you know, across the nation. And this wreath ceremony is all done through donations now, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
You know, Arlington is getting Ford Motor Company
sure.
and General Electric, and you know, huge major donations and endorsements, and Radcliffe and Fort Knox. It's you know, it's all great. It's all based upon donations and sponsorship and partnership here around the local community, and for you know, those that are, you know, listening or interested, if you've never put your eyes on the Fort Knox Cemetery, I would highly encourage you to do it. As you know, Steve highlighted, during World War II, Fort Knox had Italian and German POWs that were interned here, and one of the projects that they actually built was the cemetery. And after World War II, they were given an opportunity to either go back to their homeland or to stay here in the United States and work through their naturalization. Some went back home to Italy and Germany. Others stayed here. And one of the requests that they had when they passed away is could they be buried at the cemetery that they built? And the leadership at that time made the decision, absolutely.
So interesting story, though.
Yeah.
Backdrop,
absolutely.
For backdrop, we covered this a few weeks back on in the news too. But you guys got a race coming up too.
Yeah. So
It's like the Great American Race.
That's right. Yeah. So there's all kinds of recreational opportunities that are always going on Fort Knox. Again, much like Brandenburg and other cities and counties around here. So we do a series of races throughout the year. The next one is coming up. Just got highlighted. You know, what I would pass on to everybody is these are open to everybody. You can go to our Fort Knox MWR website and sign up. You can go to our Fort Knox MWR website and see the calendar of events. So if you're big into golf, there's obviously we're kind of at the tail end of that season.
Yeah.
But the spring is just around the corner, so to speak. I mentioned hunting and fishing. There's all kinds of other activities that are always that are going on. Some of those are physical. Some of those are just kind of good recreational things, again, like the tree lighting ceremony on the 5th.
We were very excited about the Gary Sinise concert and
Sure.
stuff. That's great entertainment for the local community and stuff. And you know, we didn't have to go all the way to Louisville
Sure.
to get entertainment. We just went right over to Fort Knox from Meade County, and it was super nice.
Yeah.
Super short trip. Easy on the pocketbook for gas, and MWR did a good job catering that event. From all the feedback I got, it was a phenomenal event.
Yeah, no, you know, we've 4th of July Independence Day is always a popular event. Again, we balance that out against what other towns, municipalities are doing. September is our big, huge Oktoberfest, which is kind of a uniqueism around here compared to what other towns do. We were, hugely grateful this year that we had two activities. One was the Gary Sinise, and then we had a USO Broadway show that was also free and is, pretty interesting to do. And as we kind of look forward into 2025, it'll be the 250th year of the Army.
Yeah.
250th
Big
year
deal.
of the nation from the Revolutionary War. So
Yeah.
kind of next June will be kind of that big week there surrounding 14 June 2025.
Exciting. Well, next Thursday, AUSA, Association United States
That's
Army,
right.
will be hosting its annual general membership meeting. We took down 20 awards this year. Very proud of that, and the team that supports our corporate sponsors. We've got some very lifelong corporate sponsors, some of the oldest in actually AUSA's history.
Sure.
And so we're excited to break bread next Thursday. We've got guest speaker Brigadier General Smith from the TAG, or the adjutant. He is the Army's adjutant. Former Jim Iacocca's position, who left the KRDA. So I'm sure there's big things in line for General Smith as well. And he's a great soul. I'm looking forward to hearing from him from a leadership perspective. That's going to happen next Tuesday at the Saber and Quill from 11:30 to 1. So I know I'll probably see you there, hopefully.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. Little old Fort Knox is, you could say, one of many installations, but in many cases, those organizations are setting policy processes, for the entire Army, and that's exactly what your guest speaker is going to do as the Army's Adjutant General. Whether that's casualty operations, continuing education, or the HR support as a soldier and a family moves around during their tenure in the Army.
And most people don't realize this, that when a soldier dies in the Army, 99.9% of the work that goes into that and taking care of the family is done right here at HRC under the TAG.
That's right.
And so everything from, and I always say this, HRC is the life cycle process. It begins in the recruiting command, which has some management under the G1, which has management over HRC from the Pentagon, to the end of life cycle, whether that be retirement or death. The ultimate sacrifice. Everything is handled right out of Fort Knox.
No, well, sure, absolutely. Yeah, when you think about, there's a JROTC detachment here at Meade County High School.
Yep.
All of those JROTC organizations around the nation are managed through U.S. Army Cadet Command, beyond just the university ROTCs.
Yeah.
If you've ever been a mom or a dad and you mailed something to your soldier who was in Kuwait or Iraq or Japan or whatever, it's the Army's HRC that manages the military postal system.
Yeah.
And that's why it only costs you maybe $10 instead of $100 because you're mailing it through that system.
APO,
And it is working that with airlines to get that over for free or for very low cost. So it's kind of interesting of that. And then same thing you would say exactly with the with our reserve component. Those individuals that are doing this part-time, 4 of those reserve divisions are right here on Fort Knox.
So this is what I'd say to you, Meade County, is, we're going to have these the third Thursday of every month. This is a great time. Hit us up in the chat. I'll make sure I leave the questions for Jim and get them to him in his email capacity. They'll run them back, and then we'll bring them back on the show. As this continues to grow over time, we'll have some open dialogue and keep the things going. But at the end of the day, the goal here is to connect the communities together. There are a lot of people that live here in Meade County that work on Fort Knox.
Absolutely.
Almost 40% of the households in Meade County work on Fort Knox, or they go to Louisville or E-Town to work, but a lot of them are at Fort Knox, and there's new jobs opening up. So usajobs.gov, if you have an interest in serving as a civil servant, there are restrictions to enter the fields of civil service, but the CPAC has tons of jobs that are posted, and you can always check those postings at usajobs.gov. And I'm sure that once the growth continues to happen, more of these jobs will open up over time. And I think, I don't know how they're going to post, because they won't post under TRADOC as a job for TRADOC if it's if USREC is going to be ASA.
Yeah, probably the best thing to do is when you go to that website up there, just type in Fort Knox, Kentucky. Normally you kind of get to that K and Y, and it'll all. and then you can start playing around with the filter to kind of, hey, I want health services, or I want something in accounting or something of that nature. You've got filters that you can kind of slim that down.
And there's always NAF jobs too within MWR. So if you're looking for some
part-time jobs, full-time jobs, etc.
And our local contractors, we have a lot of contract support services that are in the area that you can also seek out for, getting your foot in the door, I guess is what a lot of people will say. But Jim, I'm super glad to have you on this. This is going to be exciting as we grow. There is land available in Meade County out there, Fort Knox. If you're looking to build that final destination, Meade County is a place. I planted roots here. Crazy enough, I even invested in the local newspaper. That's what I'm doing now. I love it every day, and trying to share the news that's the news across the nation. Well, at least in the state of Kentucky.
There you go.
And Meade County. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you again next week, Jim. This has been awesome. If you're just now tuning into the show, I just tell you, go back, watch it back. It's going to be on Facebook. I'll put this up on the website. Thank you to our loyal subscribers. You obviously get all of this if you want to watch it on Facebook for free. But if you really want to see the inside stories, go check out the newspaper. Open it up, crack it open, or even go to our website at themessengerky.com. You guys have a great day.
All right. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thanks.